Good morning and welcome to WNHH 103.5 FM. And we are rocking out with the Great Give for the last couple of days. And so we got Will Ginsburg from the Community Foundation of Greater New Haven. He'd come on this morning to tell us what is happening, because we had Ratasha Smith and Jackie Downing on yesterday, giving us the foundational stuff about the Great Give history and why we're doing this. But you were coming in to tell us where we are with this raising money.
Well, I'm happy to, and thank you, Babs. It's nice to see you, even electronically, and be with you remotely. And thanks to WNHH for all your support for the Great Give. Well, so I can't compete with Jackie and Ratasha, but I will tell you the community is really responding to for the Great Give. This is the news is fantastic, and we are way ahead of anything we've ever seen before. I'm looking at the screen actually, and you can find the screen. Anybody can find the screen at thegreatgive.org. That's thegreatgive.org. Over $2.2 million raised.
Whoa!
At this moment, the best we've ever done. The biggest Great Give. We've been doing this for a decade. And the best Great Give we ever had was last year, which was 1.8 million. So we are at 2.2 million and rising, and this goes till 8 o'clock tonight. So the community is really responding. You know, COVID-19 has been devastating in so many ways. Needs are great, and our community is responding to that in a way that makes me proud and makes me happy, and will serve so many important needs through so many nonprofits in this community. So, to be able to come on and deliver that kind of good news about how deeply our community cares is a wonderful thing.
So when you went to bed the night before this COVID stuff happened, and you had a plan already about how this Great Give was going to go down. I mean, you had goals, you had a whole plan, you amassed staff, the whole nine. And then COVID-19 just comes through and tosses everything out the window. What do? What did you think in those early days? Were you nervous? Did you have a stomach ache? Did you oh my God, now I have to think about this in a whole different way? What was your process and your thinking?
Well, what you say is exactly right. We did have to think about it in a whole new way, but it's not just the Great Give. I mean, since the middle of March, the Community Foundation our work has completely changed, and our messaging has completely changed, and what we're doing has completely changed because of COVID-19. So our grant making is focused really entirely on COVID-19 right now. We've worked closely with United Way of Greater New Haven to raise about $2.7 million for a special fund for COVID-19, and we've given away about half of that already. We have accelerated all the usual grants we make, and we've allowed organizations to repurpose grants they've already received from us, multi-year grants, to deal with COVID-19. So in every way, really, you can think of, we are doing totally different work now than we were 2 months ago, which is hard to imagine. And of course, we're doing it in a completely different way, which is we're all remote. The staff hasn't been together in the office since mid-March. So, and that's true of the Great Give too, right? So it's not only that we put that our staff, we have a wonderful staff at the foundation, and they've done a fantastic job with this, putting it together to be able to do remotely, but also changing the message. You know, the basic message of the Great Give is coming together as a community while we're apart. And we changed the structure of it. It's less competitive this year. We wanted people to feel like they were coming together which is exactly what's happened, that we're coming together as a community. So it's less about competing, it's more about coming together, and people have really responded. And it's a great thing to see.
So, you're the first call that people probably made in the nonprofit world, right? When everything started to look like it was going upside down. And I know people probably call you with a little bit of desperation and fear in their voice, because uh, uh, they've got to make payroll, they've got to continue to do the work. Just because there's a virus doesn't mean the work and the mission stops. That people still have to press on with what they are charged with doing. So, talk a little bit about how do you assuage those fears, and how do you think quickly and critically about how to get funds and monies available to these organizations as quickly as you did? I mean, you all moved quickly.
Well, we did, and thank you for saying that. First thing I would say in response to that, Babs, is that one of the things we heard in those first days, in those first phone calls from the nonprofits to the foundation back in mid-March was, please do the Great Give. Please don't cancel. Everything was being canceled, right? And they were like, please don't cancel the Great Give. This year, more than ever, we need it. And that was a powerful message that came from a number of nonprofit leaders in our community. And of course, that's what we've done. And we're seeing the response. More broadly, I think, so the first thing we felt was that we needed to support the people and the agencies that are on the front lines of this. Everybody is being devastated by this. I mean, the economy is basically shut down, and there are no events, and demand is up, and resources are down. And organizations that have endowments are way down because the markets are way down. So everybody's been impacted. But we felt right at the get-go we needed to step up first for the front line. So what does that mean? It meant the agencies that were on the front lines of delivering healthcare. This is a public health crisis, after all, and agencies that were on the front lines delivering basic needs, food, shelter. With people losing jobs in extraordinary, record, heartbreaking numbers. This was the moment to the food pantries and the soup kitchens were seeing a huge increasing demand for services. The shelter providers, that was all got very complicated because the shelters needed to be deconcentrated to keep from spreading COVID-19. So there were a lot of expenses associated with that. So that's where we started, and working with United Way, as I said, and working with our volunteer committee that we put together. We went to donors to raise money to support those basic needs and healthcare issues, the front lines, and donors responded. We've got about 2.7 million raised for that fund. As I said before, we've distributed about half of it now, and we're continuing to do that. So that's where we started. Now that lead, you can't do everything. The foundation can never do everything. That's a painful reality, and it's been particularly true in COVID-19. So there are a lot of needs that haven't been attended to, and that brings us back to the Great Give, because this is, almost 400 organizations, 398 organizations are on the Great Give, of which, by the way, 390 out of 398 have received gifts. So the Great Give is a much broader look at the nonprofit sector. It's not just the basic needs providers and the healthcare providers, it's the whole sector, and they're all benefiting from this. And we're going to do our annual grant making, our big grant making, which we usually do, which is a couple of million more, which we usually do in the summer or the fall. We're going to do in 2 weeks. So that money is going to be awarded in May, and that goes across the whole sector too for general operating support. So to summarize, right out of the gate, it was about healthcare and basic needs. But now with the Great Give and our grant making later this month, we're trying to support the whole sector through this crisis.
So, Will, were you nervous that maybe the community had exhausted itself and would not be able to meet this challenge? Did that come up in your thinking a little bit?
Definitely. People, to put it crassly, people have less money than they did before the stock market crashed, 2 months ago. So I was concerned about it at that level. So we didn't really know what to expect. The world is a different place. And, do people feel less connected because they're more isolated because of social distancing, or do they feel more connected to their community because it's a crisis. I mean, who knew how to read these issues? So when this launched just yesterday, we really didn't have a sense of, was this going to be bigger than it's ever been, which is what it's happily what it's turning out to be, or was this going to be a disappointment? And the community has really responded. It just, I'm proud to be a New Havener 24/7, 365, and have been for 35 years. It's a wonderful thing, but when things like this happen and the community really steps forward for one another, it just reinforces what Babs, what I know. What a wonderful, special place this is, full of wonderful, special.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was something special when Natasha was on the show yesterday, and she said, we're already at $800,000, and I knew then that we were going to surpass the 2 million mark. I just had that sense. If you were already at $800,000, that means people are really plugged into this community and really want to help. And it's
interesting because one of the so our donor advisors and others, we do what's called a pre-sale. So we what happened before 8 o'clock yesterday morning blew the doors off in terms of compared to the past, and we had more sponsors of the Great Give this year than ever before. So certainly there were signals that people were going to respond, but you never know until it happens. I'm looking at just some sort of current highlights, but we've had donors from every town in Connecticut. Obviously, the biggest ones are New Haven and Hamden and Shelton and Milford and Guilford and North Haven, but we've had donors from all across the state and from 48 states and from foreign countries, which happens in the Great Give. There's the New Haven network extends very broadly, but and one of the things about the Great Give that we've seen every year, and we're seeing it again this year, is small organizations tend to do very well in the Great Give. They get their networks mobilized, and I'm sure this is given what who you are, Babs, and the things you've done. This is it. The arts community is very does very well in the Great Give. Some of the small arts organizations, less the big arts organizations than some of the smaller arts organizations. So it's wonderful to see these smaller organizations step up and mobilize their supporters in this way, because that's what this is all about. This is about we set the platform and help them with the marketing and social media and all the things they need to do. But in the end, it's their ability to mobilize their networks that drives these gifts, and that's what's happening.
So, do you plan for this forever now? Like, do you have this as part of a contingency plan moving forward as you raise money as a foundation?
You mean the Great Give?
Catastrophic things that happen that can turn your planning upside down.
Well, it's hard to plan to have your plans turned upside down, I guess, but by definition. But what you need to have is a staff and a board, and I have to say the board has been fantastic in this. We went to them in the middle of March and basically said we need to do everything differently. This is a crisis like no other, and I believe that's absolutely true. This isn't, this is. And the scope of it and the duration of it and the breadth of it and the depth of it, who knows where we're all going? Who knows where we'll be 60 days from now or 6 months from now in this country and in this community? But you have to be nimble, and you have to think. You have to be informed. You have to have a sense of what's going on. I think one of the things that's very important to us is, and again, this is a tribute to our staff and the connections, the relationships we've built over many, many, many years, is we've got the connections to get good information and get good feedback and talk to people at every level in the community, from a weekly call with the mayor and with the Yale fund that Yale's raising, down to be out in the neighborhoods with our staff, talking to what's happening, reaching into the churches, reaching into these small organizations because lots of organizations have stepped up in New Haven and in other communities in our region that, and you see this with the religious institutions, to help their parishioners, to help their congregation, to help their community. These are not necessarily organizations that are social service providers, usually not necessarily organizations that the foundation supports usually, but they're stepping up because it's a crisis and because their people are in need. And so to be able to reach them is an important part of how you respond to this kind of a situation. And that's a tribute to our people. I'm very proud of our staff because we've made a very deliberate effort to be connected and to have our ears open and to be listening always. And that pays off when the what hits the fan like it has in the last 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this must, I know you already said that you were very proud, but this has to give you an opportunity to exhale a little bit, because anything past the goal is gravy now. It's going to be put to good use, but you don't have the anxiety of like, oh my God, we have to hit those numbers.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And that's a good feeling without question. I think, I think it's a broader message too, which is the community is stepping up. So as we think about continuing to raise money for our COVID-19 fund that I've mentioned, my hope is that this is a signal that people will continue to reach in to do that too. This is, the Great Give. Let's see what the number is right now. The Great Give is we just passed 12,000 donors. So this is, yes, they're large. There's some wealthy people in there, and there's some large gifts, but this is for the most part small gifts from thousands and thousands of individuals and families. So that's what we're seeing here, and that's who needs to come out, and that's what the Great Give is about. It's about bringing people into support, learning about the nonprofits and supporting them. So the notion that that's happening, people are hurting. Unemployment is what, I don't know, over 20% in Connecticut, yeah. Greater New Haven. It's unheard of. It's Depression era unemployment rates. And yet thousands and thousands of people are reaching into their pockets to do this. So so that's a really good feeling. Yes, we should all be proud of that. That's just not the foundation. We should all be proud of that.
I so appreciate you coming on today, Will. I applaud the Community Foundation for their foresight and quick thinking around this. Seriously, I think you all have done an amazing job.
You're very kind. Thank you.
Seriously, I mean that, because I've been critical of y'all in the past over the years, but I think you all have really met the needs of this community, and you should be very proud that this community has answered the call, and happily and readily answered the call.
You're very kind to say that, and I appreciate it, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you, and you and Paul and WNHH and the Independent have been, have not only have been supportive of the Great Give, which is very important, helped us promote it, but more fundamentally, I think that what the Online Journalism Project, which we've been a big supporter of course, and the New Haven Independent have done, and WNHH do, you are part of what connects people to this community. I always say that a community is not just 650,000 people living in 20 towns in South Central Connecticut. A community has to be something more than that. It's greater than the sum. A community is greater than the sum of the parts, and what makes it greater is the connections. How are people connected? Connected to one another, connected to the place where they live, connected to the issues that they care about in the organizations that serve those issues. How are we connected to each other? And I have to say that the work you do and Paul does and the Independent does, particularly in New Haven, but outside New Haven too, and and the Sentinel in the Valley, is so important to that sense of connection. I've long believed this. It's why the foundation's been a supporter of the independent from the beginning. And that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing people's sense of connection, sense of caring, but sense of connection, that what happens in this community, what happens to needy people in this community, how do we seize the opportunities that are before us in this community? People care about that because they feel connected to those issues. And so I appreciate your what you said about the foundation's role in that, but think about your own role in that and the independent's role in that. And everybody who promotes the connections between the arts do it, journalism does it, every nonprofit organization and every nonprofit leader who's out there talking about their needs and reaching out to their community, they do it. This is what makes this community a community, and not just 600,000 people living in isolation from one another. And it's particularly important now, right? Because we are physically living in isolation from one another.
Yes.
So that's what we're seeing here. And I think there's a lot here for all of us to be proud of.
I think you're right. And shared destiny is the thing that I hold on to, because I love this town and I believe in this town and the people of this town, and I enjoy this vehicle called WNHH that it connects us one to each other. And I'm just proud of this community that steps up, and so that these people that run these organizations can, rest a little easy today, knowing that the community values the work that they do and want to see them into the future. So thank you, Will Ginsberg.
Thank you, Babs. You take care of yourself now. Stay healthy.
You too, and say hi to your wife.
Thank you, I will. And I hope I will see you face to face very soon.
Yes, there's some parties to still be had, Will Ginsberg.
Yes.
And all of that.
Think of all the parties we're going to have to make up for. We're going to be.
Oh my God.
There are going to be 3 or 4 parties every night. Just catching up. We got a lot of catching up to do in the party.
Oh, and we're all going to be ready for it too.
Yes, indeed.
Enjoy your day, Will Ginsberg.
Thanks, Babs. You too. So much. Nice to see you. Thank you.
All righty.
Bye.
Harry, we're going to wait up for the next person. So I know you're going to play some music. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee, and I'll be back in 5 minutes.